name is Fiona Campbell, and I worked on panel number 43, which is A School in Every Parish, with John Knox. I went to a talk by Andrew Crummy about the Preston Pans tapestry, which I had seen and absolutely loved, and immediately thought I would love to do this. So when he had leaflets advertising that they were going to be doing this Scottish tapestry, and I thought, oh yeah, I definitely want to do this. So I went back to our craft group at church. None of us were embroiderers, but and I told them about it, and we decided we'd do it. So there were actually about 15 in our group, I think. But it was great fun. Initially, when we first got our panel, we were a bit disappointed because, to be honest, we'd been hoping for lovely bright colours and something that we'd enjoy working on, and we got a lot of greys and browns and blacks. So it wasn't the best start. I mean, we can remember all standing around somebody's dining room table with the fabric with the design drawn on it, just lines that we all had to fill in. And it was really very daunting. And the lack of colour did worry us, but we didn't know where we were going to start at all, but somebody did, and we got going. We passed it to each other using a plastic basket, and it was all carefully wrapped up in there with everything we needed, plus a notebook, because one of the ladies had sat and written out all our names and divided the picture up into different elements, and which worked brilliantly, because we just had a look and we put our name beside the bits that we would like to stitch. And it worked really well, it really did. And I've still got this notebook, which I shall give you at some stage, because we kept track of how long it took us to do each piece and what we thought about it. And so it really helped doing that. I think one of the bits I was really pleased with was I stitched. We had John Knox in the middle, and we've got 3 schoolboys plus another 2 that were added sitting at desks. And because we had John Knox, we named the 3 schoolboys Matthew, Mark and Luke, because that seemed appropriate. And Matthew is the biggest one, and I stitched most of him and based him on my nephew, who's Matthew. But his waistcoat, I asked for some colour because I just didn't want more brown. So we were given greens for that, so that was very exciting. And I remember asking Dory for advice on stitch to use, and she suggested a fly stitch to make it look like Harris tweed. So I took her advice and used the fly stitch, and it looked lovely, but it looks like knitting instead of Harris tweed. But it turned out to be prophetic, because since then I've become a knitting teacher. So it's that's important to me as part of the panel. And the lack of colour as well. The lady who was stitching part of John Knox, she was absolutely determined to get some colour in there, so she stitched his lips red against the rules. but we got away with it. We all learned so much about stitching and about John Knox. It was a huge learning experience and very, very enjoyable.
And apart from your panel, are there any other panels that particularly stand out to you?
We've just spent ages looking at the Cramond one again. I can't remember the title of it, but it's one of the early panels. And I live near Cramond, and several of our group live in Cramond. But this was the first Stitchers meetup we ever had. We saw that panel for the first time, and it was almost completed. And we'd only just started on ours, and but it's just so beautifully done, because the branches of tree that have been used to make a shelter are just so obviously silver birch. Yeah. It's really clever, it's beautifully stitched, and there's so much more in it as well. It's lovely. One little confession I have is that I stitched my initial and my age onto the spine of one of the books. We've been told not to personalise, I did it in such a way it's not obvious. I made it into a pattern. So my name's Fiona, so I've got an F, and I've got another F upside down, and I did my age as 2 V's. And I'm well aware that's not Roman numerals for 55, but it needed to be a pattern, so nobody noticed.